Good evening. We'll begin our Kirtan in about 2 minutes or so. Just after 7, we'll start with a prayer. So, welcome, and we'll meditate just for a minute or so. Welcome, dear ones. Let's offer a prayer together. Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, beloved friend God, great masters of self-realization, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswarji, beloved Guru, Paramhansa Yoganandaji, all saints and sages from all traditions and all times, with deep devotion and love in our hearts, we bow at thy feet. We invoke your presence this evening as we chant, as we sing thy name, as we offer ourselves more and more deeply into the upward flow, the upward river of life, toward freedom in thy light. Sing through our hearts and voices. Sing through our devotion. Bless us always. Om. Peace. Amen. Kirtan is primarily a devotional self-offering. And so in a way, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do much explaining, do much sort of discussion or lecturing about it. But still, it's helpful to put a little bit of a framework around it. We chant to awaken the heart's natural love, to sort of kindle that fire of devotion. Once started, that fire begins to burn, not, I wouldn't say automatically, but begins to burn more and more vigorously. And the rising energy is sort of like the rising smoke of a fire. And we want that in our lives. It's really what makes life worth living. And so try as we chant this evening to really feel that, to really kindle that in your own heart. In between the chants, there are natural little pauses that are, yes, it's the change of the chant, it's the change of the energy, but try in those moments, to the degree that you can and to the degree that you feel to do so, try to take the spirit of the chant into silence, into a deeper awareness of its inward living reality inside. Like anything in the spiritual realm, there is the more outward aspect of religion, the rituals, the ceremonies, the rules, the precepts that people follow, the things they teach you in Sunday school, etc. And those are fine. There's nothing wrong with any of them particularly, but that's just the most outward layer. In a sense, that's like the outward skin of the body. But you go deeper into the spirit of why those things exist. And it's the same with a chant. A chant has melody, a chant has rhythm. It possibly may even have harmony, although that's a little unusual. But there are a few that have harmony, and you'll hear us sometimes sing them. But those are the outward mechanics of it, the words, the meaning. Those things have an outward reality that's a good beginning place. But deeper and deeper underneath all of that, there is a power to enlighten, a power to uplift us under the chant. And we have to get to that. And it lives inside of us to the degree that we plant it. Now, we may have to take a pickaxe to our consciousness a little bit. We may have to work the soil a bit, which is why chanting is often kind of vigorous, kind of energetic. But ultimately, chanting should end in silence. It should end in deep, deep meditation. And it's sort of this format online is a little bit awkward for the deep meditation aspect, because there's nothing happening, and we can look at the altar pictures, we could look at us, nothing particular to see there in a way, but we still want to get to that place. So we will have one short meditation and a bunch of little ones, but try in those little ones, even the ones that only last 30 seconds a minute, try to really catch the essence of the chant and make it permanently your own. This is our opportunity to experience that. And chanting, as Yogananda said very powerfully, chanting is half the battle. So don't take this lightly. This is not just filler till we get to the stories and readings later on. We're going to focus on Yogananda's book, some readings from Yogananda's book, from Swami's book, Conversations with Yogananda, stories of Yogananda speaking with Swamiji, and we're just relating different aspects of the path. But try, while we're chanting, to really feel that awakened heart in your own being. So we'll start now with the chant, I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee.
I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. I want only want only thee, Lord, thee only. I 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 want only thee, I want only thee, Lord, thee only. 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 I want only thee, I want only thee, Lord, thee only. 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 I want only thee, Lord, thee only.
We'll sing Hey Bhagavan. This is invoking God in the form of the preserver, O Lord. Hey Bhagavan, 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 We'll sing, "Oh God, Beautiful." And after that, we'll have a short meditation.
Oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. Oh God, beautiful, oh God. Oh God, beautiful, oh God. In the forest thou art green. In the forest thou art green. In the mountain thou art high. In the mountain thou art high. In the river thou art restless. In the river thou art restless. In the ocean thou art great. In the ocean thou art great. Oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. Oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful. To the serviceful thou art service. To the serviceful thou art service. To the lover thou art love. To the lover thou art love. To the sorrowful thou art sympathy. To the sorrowful thou art sympathy. To the yogi thou art bliss. To the yogi thou art bliss. Oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. Oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful. In the forest thou art green. In the mountain thou art high. In the mountain thou art high. In the river thou art restless. In the river thou art restless. In the ocean thou art great. In the ocean thou art great. Oh God, beautiful, oh God. Oh God, beautiful, oh God. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. Oh God, beautiful, oh God. Oh God, beautiful, oh God. To the serviceful thou art service. To the serviceful thou art service. To the lover thou art love. To the lover thou art love. To the sorrowful thou art sympathy. To the sorrowful thou art sympathy. To the yogi thou art bliss. To the yogi thou art bliss. Oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. Oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful. In the forest thou art green. In the forest thou art green. In the mountain thou art high. In the mountain thou art high. In Lord God. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. Oh God, oh God, beautiful, oh God. To the service, oh thou art service. To the service, oh thou art service. The lover thou art love. To the lover thou art love. To the sorrowful thou art sympathy. To the sorrowful thou art sympathy. To the yogi thou art bliss. To the yogi thou art bliss. Oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. Oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful. To the service, oh thou art service. To the service, oh thou art service. The lover thou art love. To the lover thou art love. To the sorrowful thou art sympathy. To the sorrowful thou art sympathy. To the yogi thou art bliss. To the yogi thou art bliss. Oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful, oh God, beautiful. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. Oh God, beautiful, 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 oh God, beautiful.
Let's meditate together for a few minutes. So, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to uh, focus this evening on some readings from Conversations with Yogananda, written by Swami Kriyananda. And this is different stories that Swami Kriyananda himself was present for, and things that Yogananda told him, or just different situations that Yogananda related to him. And what's fascinating to me is thank you. Okay. So these stories that Swami tells are they are not just the story by itself. They also include Swami's own thoughts about the story and his understanding and the implications of the story. And so this first one, they run a range from just kind of sweet and fascinating to staggering or shocking or outrageous or whatever. But anyway, this one starts off kind of sweet. My master, this is Yogananda speaking about Sri Yukteswar, his guru. My master once asked me, "Do you love people?" I answered, "No, I love only God." "That isn't enough," he replied. Later, he asked me again, "Do you love people?" I smiled blissfully this time and said, "Don't ask me." He could see that my love now was too broad to be spoken about. This time, therefore, he only smiled. It's just such a lovely interaction between Yogananda and Sri Yukteswar. You know, we in the autobiography of a yogi, Sri Yogananda is relating how stern Sri Yukteswar was, how much he disciplined everyone, and surely that was there, but at the same time, he had little kids there, that he was training, even at age like 6 or something. And he had to be very fatherly with them. I mean, they loved him. You know, they would play with his nose. I mean, it's like he was their dad, their grandfather, I mean, there was this human dynamic to it also. So he wasn't just being a stern disciplinarian. And I just find it fascinating that Sri Yukteswar would ask Master, "Do you love people?" "No, I love only God." "Well, that isn't enough." It's like, oh, okay. Broaden out your love. If it's only for God and you ignore all the people in the world, well, that's not going to get it done. And it's helpful for us to remember because, yes, we live in a world, we share this world with 7 billion other people or whatever it is. It's a lot. And we have to learn to get along with each other, relate to each other, and somehow not forget our love for God as well. So, this next story is also kind of interesting. It's sort of an interesting sidelight. I'm going to read there's a series of them here, just for reference if anybody cares. This first one was number 64. He numbers the conversations in the book, and it's on page 86 in the copy that I have. The second one is number 216, and there's a series of these that I think are really fascinating. So Swami's, I had the privilege of typesetting this book. This was the first book and Nirmala designed the cover and designed the interior. This was the first time that we printed one of Swami's books in 2-color. Obviously, the cover is 4-color, but we printed the inside with blue and black ink. And the reason is because whenever Master was speaking, we turned the text blue so you could tell that it was his own words, and the rest of it was would-be Swami or other people talking. So you could differentiate, because sometimes master is telling a story using the word master, and it's a little confusing to kind of know who's talking about who. Anyway, this was the first book that we published in India when we moved there in late 2003. So this was also a big adventure for us getting it printed over there. The master told us that when he first came to Sri Yukteswar's ashram, he would keep his mind and gaze focused at the point between the eyebrows as much as possible. If you want to make very rapid progress on the spiritual path, he used to tell us, keep your mind always centered there, meaning right here at the point between the eyebrows. This practice must be joined to, however, and supported by the heart's devotion. Hence, we chant like we're doing this evening. And I'll just finish the reading. For concentration at the spiritual eye, which is known as the Agya chakra, develops great willpower, but it can also make one ruthless if it isn't combined with the heart's love. When willpower is combined with love, great joy is the consequence. We often teach this little simple aphorism. If you want to make fast progress on the path, keep your attention at the point between the eyebrows. And it's helpful to realize that. But it's just like the first reading. Do you love people? No, I love only God. Well, that isn't enough. Well, keeping your attention here, is that enough? No, it's not enough. You have to also support it with the heart's natural love and join the two. Otherwise, it gets dry, or it gets too willful, or, in some way or another, it's kind of imbalanced. So I just find that fascinating. So this is just an interesting little sidelight. Yogananda's talking about his boyhood, and he says, I underwent many disciplines as a boy so as to get a feeling for different spiritual disciplines. For a while, I even went about with a begging bowl, not actually begging from people, but holding out my bowl to them to give them a chance to share with others in God's name if they so desired. Anything I received from them, I gave away to the needy. It's just an interesting little sidelight. You don't necessarily think of Master holding out a begging bowl. In fact, at other times, he talked about how to beg from others in the sense of trying to take from them without returning anything isn't spiritually helpful. And he, when his older brother was trying to prevent him from going on the spiritual path, they sort of argued about this. Who will finance you? How will you manage, etc. And the amazing chapter, Two Penniless Boys in Brindaban, in the autobiography of a yogi, Yogananda is relating this experience where Ananta, his older brother, sends them off to Brindaban, he and a friend of his, without any money. And the test is they have to have their meals, they have to tour the city, and they have to get home before midnight without telling anyone that they have no money or revealing their sort of predicament, and without begging from anybody. And Yogananda in that chapter says that God can devise 1,000 different ways for the devotee to earn his living honestly and industriously without begging from anyone. And so, of course, and in the chapter, the whole adventure unfolds where they do, in fact, get amazing, fed in miraculous ways and supported in miraculous ways, and they make it back to Agra, where Ananta is, without, uh, failing the test. And it's just fascinating to me to see that Yogananda himself, as a boy, actually did try going around with a begging bowl just to kind of give it energy, see what people would do, and then he would give it away to other people. Now, this next one is, I just got such a kick out of this. And in some ways, the next two stories that I'll relate, one of the second one is the longer one, but in a way, what Swamiji says afterwards is just as fascinating as the story itself. And the story is pretty fascinating. Once as a boy during meditation, I entered a state of ecstasy. My breathing and heartbeat were stilled. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds a lot like samadhi to me. But anyway, he was in a breathless ecstasy. Then I decided to play a little prank. Now he's breathless and he's in ecstasy, but he's playing a prank. I mean, put this all together. Well, after all, I was only a boy. When people came in, they saw me lying there, apparently lifeless. What a commotion! What wails, what lamentation. All the family stood around saying how highly they'd thought of me. And then an old faithful servant of the family, who we used to call Maid Ma, cried loudly, "Oh, oh, now I won't have anyone to fight with anymore." This was too much for me. I couldn't contain myself any longer. "Oh, yes, you will," I cried. "You," she shouted angrily. "I knew you were only fooling." Then she picked up a broom and flung it at me. Was it naughty of me? Well, I must say it was great fun. Okay, so now here's what Swamiji says. I, Walter, have since thought of a piece of advice that the woman saint Anandamoyi Ma once gave to a visitor. Tell your child to be good, but not too good. The image of a solemnly pious child saints is a bit cloying, surely. After all, it takes great energy to find God. The popular description of the Master of Galilee as gentle Jesus, meek and mild, could not possibly be applied to anyone of true spiritual fervor. Certainly, from the legends one reads about the child Jesus, the first words that spring to mind to describe him are neither gentle nor mild. The word one thinks of is powerful. And I will only add that I think it's fascinating that Yogananda can be powerful and naughty at the same time as a little boy. He's manifesting, the master is manifesting boyhood. Well, boyhood is going to include some pranks. Boyhood is going to include some poking and some fun and even while he's in ecstasy, for crying out loud. I just think that's really incredibly amazing. So anyway, that was really a sweet one. So this next story is a little longer and contains an image that is sort of PG-13, but I think you'll find it fascinating and kind of inspiring in an unusual way. The master spent many hours reminiscing with me, this is Swami talking, at his desert retreat in May of 1950. And then this is Yogananda speaking. Once I visited a saint who lived in a jungle. This sadhu wore no clothes. I was touched to see that his genitals were the size of a baby's. Such was his purity that his sexual organs had not even matured. He asked me, "What if you were going to sit down and eat, and just then a stranger came who hadn't had anything to eat? What would you do?" "I would give him my meal," I replied. "And what if," the sadhu continued, "after feeding him and preparing another meal for yourself, another person came who hadn't eaten? What would you do then?" "I would give him too what I was about to eat." "And what if this happened a third time? What would you do then?" "I would give him half my food and eat the other half myself." "Off with you," he cried. "You are no renunciate." What he meant by that dismissive expression was simply for shame. So now this is Swami speaking again. It was impressive to me that the master, in telling me this story, had made not the slightest attempt to justify his hypothetical third decision, nor to answer the sadhu's scolding with a perfectly reasonable justification. Often I found, where only he was concerned, he would graciously leave to others the last word. I do feel I owe it to him, however, as my guru, to add that every answer he gave that sadhu seems to me to have been exactly correct, both morally and spiritually. Indeed, the sadhu might have extended this hypothetical questioning to the point where the master was dying from hunger while continuing to feed others. By contrast, what the master always demonstrated was common sense. That sadhu's counsel might be taken as spiritually valid only in the case of someone who was directing his every effort toward feeding others. Otherwise, that counsel contradicted the principle of sensible moderation. The Master's solution, surely, even from the loftiest spiritual point of view, was not only sensible, but right. I was impressed, however, that he made no effort to justify himself, even to me. His silent acceptance of that man's rebuke was an inspiring teaching in itself. And I, too, can add my little testimony because Swamiji also related his amazement that Yogananda, in the book Autobiography of a Yogi, asks Mahatma Gandhi, so if you were in a village and a man came in and was going to kill everyone in the village, what would you do? And Gandhi said, I would let him kill me first. And privately to Swami, Yogananda added, I could have gone on to ask him the obvious next question. Well, if he just killed you and then went on to kill everybody else, that wouldn't, surely it would be better to stop him from killing all these other people in whatever way, if necessary, even killing the man, and rather than allowing him to kill dozens or hundreds of people. But Master didn't say that in Autobiography of a Yogi. He allowed Mahatma Gandhi to have the last word. And if you think, and here's where I will just interject my own view of all this, that in this day and age of social media, in this day and age of the internet and everyone having a chance to make their own platform anywhere they want, any way they want, often the slightest comment and people feel like they have to climb on their soapbox and rail back against the universe for how wrong the universe is. There's a basketball star whose team just got knocked out of the playoffs in the NBA, and he's one of the best players in the world. But one of the other best players in the world from a generation ago took him to task for one aspect of his game, and the commentary was justifiable, but this guy felt like he had to respond vigorously. And okay, you can make the point that you shouldn't be a doormat, but it just seemed unnecessary. And so much of the commotion that happens in our world today seems to be that need to always say back, always answer back. And I just think it's really lovely how Yogananda felt no need to do that, even in private, even where he could have explained himself. It was like, no, he let it stand exactly how it was. Recently, I posted a video on YouTube called something like whole food plant-based or something something to do with diet. And maybe it was whole food diet. But anyway, um, in it, I talked about the importance of, eating whole foods. And but I segued onto that by saying, when you eat something processed, when you eat something that's concentrated, for example, white sugar would be an example. If you just take sugar cane and juice it, the juice is actually really nutritious. It's actually considered kind of a superfood. It has tons of, enzymes and nutrients and minerals and so forth. Boil it, concentrate it, refine it, turn it into white sugar, and it's like white lightning when it hits our system. And I think of that in reference to these little stories of Master, where Master is presenting Swamiji, and by extension, all of us, with a whole food. He's presenting us with a whole story, a whole statement. And it is full of nutrition, it's full of protein, it's full of minerals and carbohydrates and all kinds of stuff that we have to conscientiously digest over a period of time in order to draw from it the nutrition that's in it. And he doesn't rush it for us. He does not refine it for us. He does not sort of sugarcoat it or tell us, okay, this is exactly what it meant, which is what we tend to kind of want. But that's baby food.
Mhm.
He's not giving us baby food. He's giving us something that takes chewing on.
Mhm.
And I just find that really beautiful and really inspiring. He's treating all of us as spiritual adults, not spiritual babies. And so he gives us the example of this sadhu who's taking him to task for not, for the third time splitting his meal, for God's sakes. And for that sadhu, it was like he dealt in absolutes. His life was for God and only for God. And Master wasn't saying he's wrong and I'm right, or he's right and I'm wrong. He was letting us decide. Oh, okay, this is unusual. Somebody's taking our master to task and he won't correct them. I just think it's beautiful and fascinating. So anyway, I wanted to share those stories. I'll share one or two other little short ones and then we'll go and chant again. My older brother Ananta, the master said, when he saw my determination to go to the Himalayas and dedicate myself to a life of solitary meditation, said to me, your life will become like dry leaves of no use, of use to no one. So here again, Yogananda replies, you may be right, brother, I replied with a smile. But dry leaves, don't forget, make very good manure, very good compost, in other words. And again, it's like you could be right, but he has a sense of humor. And that's one of the things that we appreciated. Swamiji told us, and you can even hear it yourself if you listen to Yogananda's talks. He has this amazing sense of humor, and Swamiji himself had an incredible sense of humor. I will close my little remarks by saying, if you don't have a sense of humor, you jolly well go and get one. If you have to go buy it at the store, you get a sense of humor, because you aren't going to get very far on the path if you don't develop one. Humor means you have perspective. Yogananda had perspective. Swamiji had perspective. He could just knock us out of our chairs laughing. And yet he was always in control of his own energy, of his own laughter. If he needed to be serious, often in his talks, he would say something just off the wall. I mean, I remember in Well, in Italy, when I was learning Italian, I was learning it from Swami in the sense that I knew many of the stories that he would tell in his lectures, but I didn't know all the words. And so sometimes afterwards I would ask him, what did that one mean or that other one mean? But I remember one time he was speaking in Italian and he was saying that he was commenting that women sometimes would act towards men like a wild animal. And he said, men who are going to be married, they want a wife, they want a woman, they don't want a leopard. And and I didn't know what those words meant, but I knew everybody laughed, and I just got such a kick out of it. And Yogananda, in one of his talks that I've heard, is talking about driving in Los Angeles, and he's looking at these apartment complexes with the high rise, and they're little cubby holes, and the Lord is saying, "Do you want to live in one of these? Like a fried chicken, and they're like little chicken coops, and then you get fried." He's just everybody's howling and he's laughing. I mean, it's just this goofy moment. Like, you get hatched out of an egg, you get stuck in a chicken coop your whole life, and then you get fried. Anyway, it's delightful to see the masters have a sense of humor, and so helpful for all of us to remember, because the path to God is a path of joy. The name of our organization is Ananda, and by God, if we don't have joy, which it means joy, divine bliss, if we don't have it, we jolly well better find it, or we've got nothing. So let's chant together now. We'll sing, "Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om."
Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of Om. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of love. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of love. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of love. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of love. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of love. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of love. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of love. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of love. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of love. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of love. Fill my body, fill my spirit, fill me with the sound of love. Fill me with the sound of love. Fill me with the sound of
Sing Jai Guru Paramhansa Yogananda, Jai Guru Jai. Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai. Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai. Paramhansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai. Paramhansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai. Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai. Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai. Paramhansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai. Paramhansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai. Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai. Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai. Paramhansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai. Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai. Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai. Paramhansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai. Paramhansa Yogananda Jai Guru Jai. Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai Guru Jai.
Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru.
We'll sing, How shall I love thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the root my desires. Go ahead.
You're leading.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to do a different key?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think I have to do it in the harmonium.
Okay.
Shall I love thee, Lord my God, with every breath I take? How shall I love thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? Just as a fire is breathing on just as a fire how shall I serve thee? How shall I seek thee, Lord my God? With every breath I breathe. How shall I seek thee, Lord my God? With every breath I breathe. Just as a fire just as a fire
How shall I serve thee, Lord God, with every breath I breathe? How shall I serve thee, Lord God, with every breath I breathe? Distance apart how shall I worship thee, Lord, with every breath? How shall I worship thee, Lord, with every breath? Distance apart, distance how shall I love thee, Lord, with every breath? How shall I love thee, Lord, with every breath? Distance how shall I see thee, Lord, how shall I see thee, how shall I serve thee, Lord? How shall I serve thee, Lord? Distance how shall I worship thee, Lord? How shall I worship thee,
Wink has not touched my eyes ever since I saw thee. Without thee my breath does not want to flow. Wink has not touched my eyes ever since I saw thee. Thou didst say thou wouldst come, but thou hast not come. Restless is my soul day and night. And those who were here for the story where Yogananda played the prank on his family of going breathless and faking his own death, feel that you too have gone breathless and are waiting for the divine to come. Wink has not touched my eyes ever since I saw thee. Wink has not touched my eyes ever since I saw thee. Without thee my breath does not want to flow. Without thee my breath does not want to flow. Wink has not touched my eyes ever since I saw thee. Wink has not touched my eyes ever since I saw thee. I would say that's true. I would say that's true. Restless is my soul. Restless is my soul. Has not touched my ever since I saw you. Has not touched my ever since I saw you. Without thee my breath comes no. 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 Thee does not touch my ever since I saw thee does not touch my ever since I saw I would say that's true. I would say that's true. I would say restless is my soul. Restless is my soul. Does not touch my ever since I saw thee. Does not touch my ever since I saw thee. Without thee my breath comes not. Without thee my breath comes not. Does not touch my ever since I saw thee. Does not touch my ever since I saw thee. I could say that's true. I could say that's true. Restless is my soul. Restless is my soul. Restless is my soul. Restless is my soul. Does not touch my ever since I saw you. Does not touch my ever since I saw you. Does not touch my ever since I saw you. Does not touch my ever since I saw you. Does not touch me, ever since I saw you. We'll sing Desire, My Great Enemy. Desire, my great enemy, with his soldiers surrounding me, is giving me lots of trouble. Oh, my Lord, he's giving me lots of trouble. Oh, my Lord, that enemy I will deceive, remaining in the castle of peace, night and day in thy joy, night and day in thy joy, night and day in thy joy, night and day in thy joy. What will be my fate? Oh Lord, tell me. That I am be thy religion, that I am will give thee salvation. That I am is the wishing tree. Pranayam 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 is beloved God. Pranayam is Creator Lord. Pranayam is the cosmic word. 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 Control the little pranayam, become all-pervading pranayam. You won't have to feel anything anymore. You won't have to feel anything anymore. You won't have to feel anything anymore. You won't have to feel anything. Desire, my great enemy, This soldier surrounded me, is giving me lots of trouble. Is giving me lots of trouble. You're giving me a river to see, remaining in the castle of dreams. Night and day in my joy. 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 Pranayama is the wishing tree. 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 Pranayama is the cosmic word. 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 Control the little pranayama. Become all the leader. The sweet and sweet the sweet and sweet Let's close now by chanting Om together, sending out waves of light, waves of blessing into this world. Om. Peace. Amen.
Thank you for joining us. God bless you.
God bless you all. Jai Guru. Hope to see you on Sunday morning for Sunday service. We'll be back in the temple. Those who are here in Sacramento or within travel distance, come be with us.